People who quit their jobs on the first day. What was your I'm out of here moment? Salesman for Kirby vacuums. First sale call was to a single elderly woman who was supporting her son in hospital. They got us in the door by offering a free carpet clean as a demonstration. The supervisor training me pushed and pushed to make the sale until this old woman was in tears. Just as she was about to sign the paperwork, I asked if she actually wanted to vacuum, and she said it was lovely, but she couldn't afford it. I took the paperwork away from her and said not to worry. Outside I told the supervisor I quit, to which he replied I would have been fired anyway. No love lost. I hung around for half an hour playing on my phone to make sure the supervisor left because he was a real piece of work. I wasn't the person, but I was training a new guy at a movie theater. A customer asked for extra butter. She was nice and normal, not a mean or rude customer, the kind I would pay to handle all day long. He puts the popcorn tub down, says I'm going to the bathroom, takes off his apron and walks out the front door and never came back. Maybe he shat his pants and couldn't bear the thought of returning. Worked in a hotel for a day. No one told me where anything was. Got chewed out for it. Guests enjoying their meals told me to pay no mind, I was doing a good job and that my boss is a CNT. I told the manager that I was quitting and wouldn't be doing the next shift. I arrived the next day, returning a work uniform, and my supervisor approached me and yelled at me for being late. I told her I already quit, but if I was working, technically I was 5 hours early for my shift. Absolute nutcases. It was my first day at Five Guys. It was around 10:30 p.m. and they told me it was time to clock out, despite not having finished closing. I then worked until almost midnight. I did not return. It was a petrol station and the manager wanted me to work for free until I had learned their computer systems to what he deemed a satisfactory extent. I agreed to do it because I needed a job, and he brought me in at 7 AM on my first day. However, he was not present to go through the training with me, so I was just standing around kind of helping out on the forecourt, but not really knowing what I should be doing, not learning anything. After about an hour and a half without the manager showing up or anyone training me on anything, I decided that I wasn't going to continue to be taken advantage of and told the cashier to pass on the message to the manager that I had quit. My first day working at Ebb Games. I was super excited to be there. The first half of my shift was basically tidy up the shelves. It was a high traffic location, so the shelves always need tidying. After 5 hours of following kids around and putting things away, I go on break. When I come back, my manager is standing in his strangely empty store, absolutely aghast, staring at a huge steaming pile of shit on the carpeted floor. Apparently a homeless person had walked in. Without saying a single word, he dropped throw and emptied his bowls. My boss at me and says, "Oh good, you're back. Just in time. Clean that up. I'm going for lunch." I laughed at him and told him, "You can't be serious. I'm not going near that." He responds with, "It's your job. I'm taking a break. I want it gone before I get back." I told he's going to have to deal with it on his own because I don't need this job that bad. So I quit. I grabbed my coat and went home. 1 week later, the district manager calls me up to apologize and offer me my job back. Shared tips based on seniority. Nope. Young and naive right out of college. Took a marketing job. My interview was great. Nothing shady seemed to be going on, and no immediate red flags. After 4 hours of training, my first day consisted of going door to door in a suburban town trying to sell cable to older people. We were told to dress for business, so I'm hiking around for miles in my best skirt, suit jacket and heels. The hours were from 9:05, but we didn't get back to the business until well after 10 PM. Not to mention, the person I was shadowing was able to make a sale to an older gentleman who seemed to have memory issues. I noped the duck right out of there. Electronics store. My first day, we had to attend a class where they teach people how to upsell folks. Basically walked you through ignoring what they ask you for and using their ignorance of the equipment against them. I thought that was really scuzzy. Then they went on to tell us about a commission style bonus program that basically forced employees to upsell everyone. When we took the break for lunch that first day I peaced out and went home. Never got paid for those 4 hours. But I never regretted bouncing on that. I was hired at a chain restaurant to be a hostess. I was so excited because my last job was washing dishes, and because of my eczema, I had to quit. It was too painful to do that job. So, I arrived at my new job dressed up to be a hostess, and those mfos took me back to the kitchen to do dishes because the dishwasher just quit. I noped out of there real fast. I have worked in construction type jobs my whole life. The amount of angry abusive assholes you encounter are endless. This owned kid still has the title. This was in the 90s, so he has stood the test of time. A friend quit this job and gave my number to his asshole boss he had, without my knowledge. I never did thank him for that. This guy calls me out of the blue and asks if I need work. I said I did. He said he could pick me up the next morning. I said I have my own car, I could meet him on site. He yells and says he will pick me up. I was floored that this idiot was yelling at me 2 minutes after talking to me. I gave him my address and he said he would be there at 6:30 the next morning. At 5:30 the next morning this asshole is calling asking, "Where the duck is your house?" No hello, no good morning. Just full on screaming. I said if he would stop yelling I would give him directions. He starts yelling again, so I hang up. He calls right back and is losing it because I hung up on him. I tell him to duck off and not even bother to show up. The 2 other guys I lived with were now awake and not too happy with me. I explain what happened and they just go back to bed. About 30 minutes later I'm awakened by the sound of a horn blaring outside our house. We lived on a farm, so luckily the next neighbor was half a mile away. My roommates once again wake up and they are livid. We all go outside and this asshole is yelling at us to get in the truck because we are late. He's there a half an hour earlier than he said he would be. He also doesn't know who is who because he just spoke to me on the phone. I'm about to tell him to duck off again, but my buddy walks up to the truck and says he wants to get paid up front. This guy lets loose a tirade on my buddy. My buddy just laughs in his face. He says if you're going to be insole he will have to pay him first. The guy just keeps yelling. My buddy says he will be out in a minute and he better have his money ready. We all go back in the house and watch this guy wait in his truck. He's there about 5 minutes and starts blowing the horn. We just laugh and poke our head out the door and say we'll be there in a minute. He keeps blowing the horn. We just ignore him. After another 10 minutes he bangs on the door. I open the door and this fool is about 5'2" and maybe 200 pounds. I'm shocked by his appearance. He's just about to say something and I say, "Didn't I tell you to duck off and not bother coming here?" He is truly confused. He asked where's the other guy. I said he was just ducking with you. I'm the guy you were talking to. Now duck off. He says, "So you're going to duck me up and not come to work?" I was amazed what an ass this guy was. I said you got to pay me up front first. He starts yelling and swearing again. I slam the door in his face. He starts banging on the door like a madman. I finally have enough and get a hockey stick and chase him back to his truck. It was pretty funny watching him run. He backs out of the driveway and threatens he'll get me for this. He still is the biggest soul I have ever met. They hired me to work full time. I had interviewed to work full time. I was trying to quit a horrible job, and this job was on the other end of town. I needed enough money for the bus pass and to make up the difference and more of quitting my old job. They hired me and showed me my schedule. I showed up for my first day. Things are going good. Then my manager called me in, sat me down, and explained that they'd have to cut me down to 15 hours a week because they'd hired too many ducking people. I explained, painfully, that I had to take a bus an hour each way and wouldn't be able to pay rent or food after that. He said I could always hold out and hope people quit. I told him he could start with me, took off my apron, and stormed out in tears. I didn't quit, but it was an interview many years ago. The position was for an admin assistant. I got to the place, and it was in the back of a strip mall kind of. Just a small parking lot and a forest. I go into interview, and the guy tells me it is in fact not an admin position, but an alarm system cold calling position. I immediately knew he was wasting my time and his, but finished it out. He told me there would be a lot of evenings just him and I working. I don't think so. He also said that he loves to reward his team for good sales and always takes them to Mexico. I walked out and told my husband BF at the time there was no way I was taking that. I got a call for a second interview, but never picked up the phone. So sketch. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.